Welcome to today's show. For all of you watching on YouTube, please take a moment and hit that subscribe button and click that bell for notifications. Holy smokes, Batman! Today on Mr. Nashville Talks, the original boy wonder, it's Robin himself, Burt Ward. Every little boy has one dream, and it's usually to meet a superhero. And I am actually getting to meet a real life superhero virtually, of course, due to all that's going on in our country right now. Mr. Burt Ward, Robin from the original Batman and Robin. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine, citizen.
It's a tough time, for everybody.
Well, you know what I tell everybody, Larry? Here's what I tell. I have a nice outlook in life. I tell everybody the first 100 years are the hardest.
Yes.
After that is pretty smooth sailing.
Smooth sailing. Yeah. I like that. I like that a lot. But you've taken you actually are kind of a real life superhero, because you're doing some great things with your Gentle Giants charity that I think are amazing. I'm a dog lover and an animal lover, and when I found out that you were doing so much, you have your own charity, but you also have a special brand of pet food. I'd like to talk about that a little bit and how you came to this idea and what made you start the charity Gentle Giants.
Well, 27 years ago, my wife and I moved here from the beach. We had a young daughter that we thought would be a better growing up atmosphere to come out a little bit into the country. We're about an hour east of Los Angeles, and instead of being in a high rise overlooking the beach with balconies that are 50 feet up in the air, and you got little kids that can walk out on the balconies, we both thought it would be better to move into a more rural atmosphere. We moved to a wonderful city that horses have the right of way over cars. It's like the last Western city in America.
Wow.
Where every property has to have a horse trail either in front of it, behind it. Every commercial building has to have a Western theme and a tie-up for horses. I mean, it is, and it's very animal friendly.
I love that.
So we moved here, and we thought it would be a great thing for our daughter to grow up with a dog. Mm-hmm. So my wife had grown up with Irish Wolfhounds, and I'd grown up with different breeds, but I'd always wanted to have a Great Dane. So we decided we would either get an Irish Wolfhound or a Great Dane. As it turned out, because Irish Wolfhounds are so scarce, you almost have to bring one from Ireland if you want to have one here. But we heard about a Great Dane that someone was giving up because they were traveling, and the person watching it didn't have time to care for it, and they just wanted to get a home for it and didn't want to take it to an animal shelter because it could most likely be put to sleep.
Yeah.
So we rescued that dog. And then we heard about other ones that were in people's homes, so they weren't in immediate danger, Larry. We thought, well, they'll find a home for it. And it turned out later on, when we checked, that all of them were ultimately put to sleep because at one point or another, they couldn't hold on. They go to a shelter, and, dogs are barking in animal shelters. And who's going to take a big dog out of a cage that's barking? So they would put them all to sleep, and it was a terrible situation. So I said to my wife, Tracy, this is the first week in August of 1994. I said, Tracy, we can't let these dogs die. How about just for a couple of weeks, we rescue these Great Danes until we can find somebody to start a rescue and take over this rescue for us. And so she said yes. The only problem, Larry, it's been 27 years and I'm still looking, and I'm a patient person, but 27 years. Right.
Yeah.
But by the end of August of 1994, because we were taking all the Great Danes in Southern California that were about to go to a shelter, we had 102 Great Danes in our home. Every dog we've had lives in our home with us. They're not living in some other building. They're not living outside. They're not living in a dog house. They live in our home in the main area that we live in, not some garage or patio or anything like that. So we've had now, in the last 27 years, more than 15,500 dogs live in our home.
Wow.
We always have a minimum of 50 in our house. I have 50 here now while I'm speaking to you. And if you notice, You don't hear any sound because
Yeah.
they're all trained not to bark unless they sense danger.
That's
So we have
awesome.
no barking, no noise. People don't even know that they're here, but they are here. And we have 45 different breeds, from giant Great Danes to tiny Chinese cresteds. That's the one that's the hairless one with the tongue hanging out of their mouth.
Yeah.
They are 1/3 the size of a Chihuahua. The average
Really?
Chihuahua weighs 5.5 to 6 pounds. I've got dogs here that weigh 2 pounds. That's how
Wow.
small they are. But all of the dogs are here, and we've done something pretty unique. We have found a way to help dogs live longer and healthier. Our dogs are living up to 27 and a half years with an amazing quality of life. Our dogs here are so healthy. The only time they go to a veterinarian is every 3 years for a $10 rabies update.
That's awesome. That
And
is
we make a
incredible.
special food that is different from every other dog food. And it combines 3 things: how you care for your dog, how you feed your dog, and what you feed your dog. And we consistently have dogs living a minimum of twice their normal lifespan. Right here now, the youngest dog we have here now is 14 years of age. And we have English Mastiffs and Irish Wolfhounds who only live 6 to 8 years. And so our youngest dogs here are 14 to 25 years of age. It's called Gentle Giants, our food. It's our charity. We don't take any salary from it. It's sold in Walmart across the country. It's sold in Target across the country. It's online with everybody like, Petco.com, PetSmart.com, Chewy.com, Walmart.com, Target.com, TractorSupply.com, and our own website, GentleGiantsDogFood.com, which I invite your listeners or readers or viewers to go to our website, because they can see real videos of how long these dogs are living and how healthy they are. And everybody's dog can live so much longer and healthier if they follow our suggested feeding program and they feed our food. And because we don't take any salary from the food, our dog food, which, all natural, no chemicals, no GMOs, which makes the food twice as expensive. Our food retails for about half the price of what you would pay in a pet store. So our motto is half the price and twice the life. That's
I
just
love that.
dog food.
Because I love that. And I'm a huge dog lover. I have a little Chihuahua, but I've had different breeds and a lot of mixtures. I've had everything over the, since I was a little boy. But there's something about that interaction with the especially dogs. They give you such love, unconditional love.
Yes.
I never could understand how, if someone was mean to old people, children, or dogs, or animals, period, something's wrong with that person.
Absolutely.
I just don't, there's no joy there for some reason. And I bet you probably, this is kind of an odd question, wasn't one I was going to ask, but I bet with the type of work you've been in your whole life, or most of your life, you've probably seen a lot of these animals and things used in movies and different places, and then kind of retired. What do you do with them? Well, they're too old now. We don't do anything. That type of mentality. I know that happens a lot with racehorses and things. Have you seen a lot of that with animals in the Hollywood?
I haven't seen, quote, retired ones where I've worked. Like I just recently had a guest cameo on Supergirl, and they, I played Dick Grayson, the character I played on Batman, Robin's alter identity. And they had a dog for me to walk, a German Shepherd. And I thought at first, oh, well, that's because, I have a dog rescue and I'm an expert handler and stuff. But no, it wasn't for that. It was because there was a German Shepherd in the original Batman comic book called Ace the Bat Dog. So in the superhero Supergirl show that I did, that was based on the Batman comic book, and that's why they had Ace the Bat Dog, and that they had me walking it. So it was kind of a nod to the comic book, and it was great.
Yeah, that was really good. They did their homework on that one.
Uh-huh.
Talking about your career and things too. I think it was maybe last January or last winter, you got your star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. And why did they take so long? You should have had that a long time ago. But
Yeah, well, it took about 50 years, and I tell people, Larry, I am a patient person, but
yeah,
50 years, don't you think that's kind of a long time to wait?
it is. Yeah, especially because I mean, you've had a superstar career.
Yeah, I've been for it, but they award it to people that they don't award it to every celebrity. There's
Yeah,
actually only a small percentage that get it, and they look for people that do charity work. They want a
yeah,
celebrity, not that just a celebrity, but a celebrity that gives back, a celebrity that does things for others. And
yes.
my Lord, do we do things for others?
I love
You're
that.
like the ultimate sample of that, because my wife, for example, Tracy, 20 hours a day, she cares for these dogs,
Yeah.
20 hours a day, 7 days a week for 26 and a half years.
Wow.
That
That's,
isn't a commitment. I don't know what is.
yeah, that's true dedication, true love too. I mean, you fall in love with them, I mean, it's just like a baby almost.
Well, I tell the people I have two human children, and I've had 15,500 canine kids.
Yeah.
Okay. And I love my human kids, right? But I will say something about dogs. Of the 15,500 dogs that have lived in our home in the last 27 years, not one of them has ever asked me to buy them a car.
I love it. I love it. I have two boys, so I might have to get some more dogs and kind of balance it out. By the way, my friend Alex, he dresses up as Robin for charity things and for hospitals, like with children. And he was at your Hollywood walk.
Alex Zolt.
Yes, I never know how to pronounce
Well,
it.
it's
But
like
yeah,
ZOLT. It's very
yeah,
interesting. And he's a great pianist. I don't know if you know that.
yeah. He's amazing.
Yeah, and he's very into we actually gave him an award, a superhero to the rescue award, because of the work that he's done. I believe it's Haiti or Puerto Rico that he's set up, where he helps them get fresh drinking water and stuff like that. Really nice guy, a wonderful guy. And we've become friends through the years. And yes, he came out to my star ceremony, and then afterwards we had a party around the corner at the Hollywood Museum. And yeah, it was quite a cool thing. Yeah, very nice guy.
Yeah, real super nice. I read somewhere, and we never know what's true and what's not. But did you actually start out as an ice skater? Is that
Yes,
true?
well, what it is this. My father, when I was born, owned the largest traveling ice show in America, which was a predecessor of Ice Capades. This is
Yeah.
before Ice Capades. And my father had I would describe as an early work ethic. Okay. So my father had me in the show when I was 2 years old, billed as the world's youngest professional ice skater at 2 years of age. And it's funny. I actually remember a few things from that experience. I remember kind of skating on the ice, and what they would do is they would announce this, and they'd have two of the top skaters in the show come out with me, and they're each holding, a hand of mine, not holding me up, just holding the hand. And my skates were like, the blade was 8 inches long. I think the shoe was probably 4 inches long. I was only 2 years of age. And they would hold my hand, and we'd skate around this arena. I mean, because this was big arenas. And I remember the lights where you couldn't see anybody in the audience because the bright lights on the ice, but you could hear them, right? And you just tremendous. And so they would skate around holding my hand. And then after going all the way around the rink, they'd let me go, and I would skate by myself around it. And people were like tearing up the seats. I mean, a 2-year-old skating by themselves all around this whole arena, right? Oh, it was, and I remember that. I really remember that with incredibly fond memories. So I became billed as the world's youngest professional ice skater at age 2.
That's amazing. You got the showbiz bug, you know, from the applause as well. And
Yes.
now, how did you get into acting before you were cast as Robin, or
I
was
was
it
studying acting. I
okay?
was studying professionally with one of the top coaches in LA. And I also was going to UCLA as a student taking acting class. So I was getting it both in class and, by professional, but I had never tried out for a part. I had never done a part. I never done anything. And I was helping my father out, who became, after he sold the ice show, he became a prominent real estate broker in Beverly Hills, California. And on the weekends, I would sit at some of these open houses so that if somebody came in, I could hand them some literature or whatever. And one of the people that came in was a prominent Hollywood producer looking for a home. And I got to talk to him, and I asked him if he could watch a scene. I guess I was pretty brazen to ask him that, because he's there looking at houses, right? And he watched the scene and said, "Hey, I'll send you to an agent." And one thing led to another, and I ended up getting a chance to try out for it. And it was the first thing I ever tried out for in my whole life.
Wow. I mean, that was meant to be. I mean,
I think so.
And the story of that is just one that, I mean, you hear about it every now and then, but not very often, especially one where it's such a big phenomenon.
Right. Well, let me tell you, when I got the role, the executive producer said, "Burt, would you like to know why we selected you?" And I said, "Yes, sir, I would." He said, "We interviewed more than 1,100 young aspiring actors, more than 1,100. Okay.
Wow.
And the reason we picked you from all of them is because if there really was a Robin, I mean, forgetting television now, I mean, if there really was a Robin, we think that you personally would be it. So we don't want you to, quote, act. We want you to be yourself and be enthusiastic." And that's exactly what I did for 120 episodes.
Wow. Wow. And when you were doing this show, did you feel like it would be this epic and last this long? Or did you just think, well, we're doing great, I want to keep this going till the next thing? Or
Well, first of all, I had no idea if it would be successful or not,
right,
because we
yeah.
were a mid-season replacement. Okay. We didn't come on as launching as a primetime show. I mean, we were in prime time, but as a replacement show,
Right.
mid-season on ABC. And, when you're filming a show, it's not quite the glamour that you might think it is. In my case, here I am, 20, going on 21 as I'm filming. The closest person in age to me was Adam West, who played Batman at 37, and
Yeah.
I'm 20, right? He's 17 years older than me. And all of the rest of the people on the crew were these top professionals who were always, they use them year after year. So they're all in their 50s and 60s. So
Yeah.
I was like by far the youngest person on the set.
True. Yeah.
And in addition to that, what is something that was hard for me to get used to is that I had to wait 45 minutes for them to light a scene. And then I get up and I work for 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Then I wait for another 45 minutes and work for 30 seconds. And people would say to me, "Burt, why don't you just get a bunch of books and just kick back, and when you're not on set, read the books?" Well, guess what? I never had a chance to read a single book, and I'll tell you why. Because even though you're sitting there waiting for 45 minutes, some assistant director comes out, "Oh, Burt, we got to have you in makeup. Oh, Burt, we got to have you back in wardrobe. Oh, Burt, this. Oh, Burt, that. We'll just be right back." And then it's done. Then never, you couldn't read a paragraph. You
Right.
never have any and you come in on you while you're dressing. You know what it is? It's like knock on the door and open the door. They don't give you a chance to answer. And there you're pulling up your underwear or something. I mean, you whatever privacy you thought you had, you no longer have.
Yeah, I can imagine. And then did you and Adam have a good friendship? Or
Oh my God. We were like, let me tell you something. I really believe that's one of the major reasons the show was so successful.
Yeah.
Yes, granted, with all the color and the fight scenes and the Batmobile and the theme music, all of that is great. But Adam and I personally had a chemistry
Yeah.
that really worked. With and all the great comic duos, and Batman really for adults was comedy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They all have great contrast, Laurel and Hardy, one tall and, one short and one heavy and one thin. All of the great Abbott and Costello, different heights, Johnny Carson, Ed McMahon.
Yeah.
They all the great comic duos have contrast. So in case of Adam and I, Adam is like Mr. Debonair, and he wants his tea at 4 PM, and you know what I mean? He thinks himself as like a prime minister or something very grand. And I'm like this kid that talks fast. Let's go do this. Wait a minute, Robin, wait. And it's so funny on our show. There's so much great fun. Like we're chasing some villains, right? We're on the street, we screech the Batmobile and we're chasing these villains. They run across the street and I start to run after him. And Batman says, wait a minute, Robin, we must cross the walk, you and the crosswalk. We have to honor the laws.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Have to use exactly. Crosswalk. So, I mean, you use a crosswalk and the people are an extra block down the way. I mean, that kind of craziness, but it was so much fun. And for kids, the hero worship, I mean, who wouldn't want to be riding in the Batmobile, racing through Gotham cities to try to save somebody's life, climbing buildings, fighting villains, Yeah. It's like a total fantasy for kids.
Yeah, it was. And it's a good thing for so many generations come together, because like my dad, I was young and my dad was like, he saw the first runs of all these shows and he had all the comics. And so, it was a great thing, a bonding experience between he and I, to watch that. That's what really got me into Batman, to be honest. And, but now you mentioned the costumes. I think I read somewhere they had this huge auction and some of the costumes sold for record-breaking numbers. I mean, did you ever wish you could have just kept one of them and held it back or something?
Well, I did keep one, but then I ultimately let it go to auction, donated it, and it raised like $500,000 for charity. So that was really I felt good about that.
Yeah, if you're gonna get rid of it, that's the way to do it, right?
I didn't really want to get rid of it, but on the other hand, there was such an opportunity to do well for others that you sort of like, feel obligated to do it.
There's been so many incarnations of Batman, and some of them are not so well, some of them are great. And then of course you also have the animations, which some of those are actually pretty interesting. The feature film as an animation. But what did you think of Gotham when it was on?
The television series?
Yeah, the recent one. Yeah.
It's interesting because when our show went off and our movie stopped airing in theaters, DC Comics, who has the rights, they're part of Warner Brothers, they decided that for a theatrical audience that they needed a darker version of Batman.
Yeah.
And I always liked the family version, something for everybody. So, but I can't blame them. They saw that as a viable, business alternative. Yeah. And it's I mean, they've done very well with it. But I really think that they're going to do whatever they're going to do to maximize the property. That's after all, it is show business.
Yeah.
Not just entertainment business. It's show business. So but I've enjoyed it, and I think these movies that have come out have been very well done, and a lot of great action and stuff like that. So I feel pretty good about it.
Yeah, well, that's good. Do you ever run into some of I know like some of the Gotham stars and things, they do the autograph signings at different places. Do you do that as well? Go to the conventions?
I did for over 50 years. I mean, and I remember there were 25 years. For 25 years, I did 300 cities a year for 25 years. That's like living out of a suitcase.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it is. That's a rock and roll lifestyle. It really, well, and you were like, really, you guys were rock stars, you had celebrity fans, plus, all the fans in the world watching the show, and
exactly.
You know, what about the celebrity guest stars? Do you have a favorite one that came on the show that you really clicked with, or?
Not a favorite one. For me, I was kind of like a kid in the candy store. I mean, every week I was seeing some celebrity that I either grew up with, seeing it in, I don't know, television or on television or in a movie theater. So for me, every one of these celebrities was like, wow, that's really cool to meet them, and to work with them. It's really an honor. So like I said, I was a kid in the candy store. Everything was like eye candy for me.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm sure you had your pick of girlfriends at the time.
Well, I was like a normal guy, and
Yeah,
but the hours that I worked were astronomical. I mean, you're there from 7 in the morning till 7 or 7:30 at night, and you were really separated from other people. There's nobody else there. You're not in a social scene where you
right.
I mean, you have to understand, I'm 21 years old, and the youngest person next to me in age is Adam at 37,
Yeah,
17 years older, and then all the crew members are all in their 50s and 60s. So
yeah,
there wasn't a lot of synergy there.
right.
Uh, but I still got along and I enjoyed it. And later on, I was able to go out on other events where I could have fun. I mean, I try to live a normal life.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Um, did you ever have any strange or most one that stands out the most of a fan encounter? Because I know there's a lot of varieties of really deep, serious Batman and Robin fans.
Yeah, well, I've had all kinds of. I mean, I actually kept track of it. I've stopped keeping track of it, but I kept track of 7,000 personal appearances and having met more than 8.5 million people.
Wow. Wow.
And let me tell you something, that is a big deal.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I mean, you make their life special for that. I mean, for that few moments, especially, I know you do a lot of work with things like the Make-A-Wish type foundation events. And you really are almost like giving magic to these kids because they feel special for that whole entire time, or
Yes.
adults in some cases, all fans, but
Right.
especially those like that. But
Yes,
I
that's
didn't,
true.
I guess, you've seen it all, you know.
Well, I've
Uh,
seen a lot. I've seen a lot and traveled a lot. And I, for the most part, had a really great time doing it. But, I'm now focusing on our charitable things with our dog food and our plans to do other charitable events. So I'm actually having a pretty good time.
yeah, it's so great to have something that launched you so big and you can do things that you want to do and help people. I think that's one of the greatest success stories of all. I think that's what we're here for,
Yes.
to bless others and do good for other people, and help the world and make it a better place.
Exactly.
You had three cat women on this, well, three character Catwoman, but three Catwomen as far as the plurality. Women on the show. Did you have a favorite to work with of the three, or one that vibed the best? I mean, because everybody asks these questions.
Yeah, they do. They do. But in my case, I got along great with all of them. They were all incredibly nice. Julie Newmar was the original Catwoman,
Yeah.
and she was basically the one for almost every single show except for one show in the last season when Eartha Kitt was Catwoman, who was very nice. Now in our Batman movie, Leanne Merriweather took the part of Catwoman. Leanne Merriweather, she was great, and Leanne, she was, I mean, she was a great Catwoman, and they all, I mean, I think back now of them, and all of them were great in their own way, and they brought something special. They had a different way of portraying the character, and it was just, we had fun, and it was a bigger than life show. We used to say that we put on our tights to put on the world.
Yeah.
In fact, we were the only superheroes that wore our underwear on the outside of our clothes.
That's great. Yeah, you almost had to do a little, I'm sure, a lot of padding and things as far as what you're not allowed to show on television back then too. I bet a lot of that was probably uncomfortable, wasn't it?
Yeah, there was restrictions that you don't have today. And
Yeah.
Adam and I would try to juice things up a little bit for the college kids and the teenagers. And then we get called in by the censors the next week. And you can't do that. You can't do this. Well, gee, I didn't know I was doing anything wrong. We play
Right.
dumb and then turn around and do it again or do
Yeah.
something similar like that. But we knew that we had an audience beyond the kids and beyond the adults, that teenage and college kids that in the 60s were so irreverent. They
Yes.
would, and lines like, gosh, Bruce, you're right. Oh, these kids laugh because nobody would agree with their parents. No, man, that's the last thing you would ever do. They're so rebellious. So and we played right into the thing, and people just loved it. I mean, they just laughed and they had the best time.
Well, yourself, Julie Newmar, Lee Merriweather, you're the only three left, correct? Missing somebody?
I don't know. I mean, you could be right. You could be right. And it just seems really sad because I loved working with all those people. I had a really good time. I had fun. I thought it was very special.
Do you keep in touch with Lee and Julie?
I see them occasionally.
Yeah.
I run into them at some events and some things in Hollywood, and some of the things we're mutually invited to. But we all have our own lives too, and I'm really happy about it, and I love what I did, and I love that we made so many people happy, and even today I run into people and they'll say things like, I was a point in my life where I could have gone the wrong way and gotten in trouble. And I watched your show and I realized how important it is to be a good person. And I got into, being a first responder or something like that.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, it's worked out really nicely.
You did all your own stunts too, correct?
Well, not all of them, but most of them, because they hired a stuntman for me, but they could rarely use him because he didn't look like me. And he had a nose like Cyrano de Bergerac, the giant nose, and I don't have that. And so they'd say, well, Burt, you could do it. It's not that big a deal. I said, well, why are you paying the stuntman to do it if you got me there going to do them? And then after me doing them, going to the hospital with 2nd or 3rd degree burns, and it was a challenge. It was, and today they have more procedures for protecting the celebrities than they did then.
Yeah.
It was pretty dicey on some of these explosions.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, because it was kind of, inventing them on the spot back then, I would say, a lot of them anyway.
Yes. Yeah. And, that's true.
Real life daredevils doing them more than scientists and people that studied everything,
Exactly.
To kind of wrap things up, because I know you've got to go. If you could go back and talk to younger Burt, what would you tell him?
I've thought about things, and I really don't think that I've messed up anything in my life. You have to understand, I was picked because they thought that I represented really what the character was. And it's kind of funny when I do these films or things later on, years later, and they say, oh, is it hard for you to get back in character? Well, of course not, because that's me. I mean, they made me Robin, or they made Robin me, whichever you want to say it. So it isn't hard to be yourself. But I really think that I have espoused a life that is very similar to what the Robin characters. In my own case, I never drank anything. I never took drugs. I never smoked. I wouldn't do any of those things. I would always want to keep myself as alert and mentally sharp as possible. So, but on the other hand, I don't think I would have changed anything, because everything I've done, I feel like my wife and I have accomplished so much, and we've saved so many lives, and we've helped people with their dogs, who now their dogs are living twice as long and 3 times as long. And it just it's satisfying to feel that you've made a contribution that really affects people.
Well, and I want to encourage everybody to go to your local, wherever you buy your pet food at, get the Gentle Giants pet food. And can they also, if they don't have a pet, can they donate to the charity? Is there a way to do that?
Well, they could, but you know what we've done, my wife and I we've actually, even though we're a full 501c3, we're no different than any Muscular Dystrophy United way, but we actually tell people that donate to other charities. We've cared for all of the dogs. We just pay for things ourselves. We don't need it. It's very nice, but there's a lot of other charities that really need money to survive. And we've been very fortunate, because my wife and I have done well, that we can take care of it, you know? So we encourage people to donate to other charities that really need help.
I love that. You're still Robin. You're still doing all the superhero work.
But, you know, I tell people I'm still climbing the walls, but for different reasons.
Yes. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for coming on the show and being so open. And thank you for the work you're doing. And like I said, now, if I could go back and talk to younger me, I would tell him to hang in there, because I get to talk with Burt Ward later on. So
there you go.
There you
go. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thanks again.
Well, it's my pleasure, Larry, and it's been a delight to speak with you. And I hope all of your viewers and listeners enjoy your show, because it's a great show and you ask great questions and it's from the heart. And I think things like that are more meaningful than just the standard, you know, press type questions, but questions that have meaning to them and can bring some kind of value to people's lives. That's really what it's all about, you know?
I agree. Thank you so much.
As we said on Batman, to the Batmobile, citizen. Holy interviews, Batman. Hi, this is Burt Ward, Robin from TV's Batman, suggesting that you tune in to Mr. Nashville Talks with Larry Ferguson. What we sowie, citizen.